Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to a fresh new episode of the Daily World News Commentary. We're starting off with France. Yesterday there was the International Workers' Day, which originated in France in 1919 as result of rallies that were started in the 1880s by socialists and communists demanding better conditions such as 8-hour workdays and trade unions. Yesterday's protests turned violent, especially in Paris, where anarchists wreaked havoc in the French capital and looted some. The events of yesterday brought to mind the events of 1968, when in a similar day, similar protests, France, the capital of France, have seen the worst, most violent events in its history. There were also other protests around the world, in Bangladesh, in multiple other countries. I cannot recall all right now, but there were workers' protests and demands in all over the world. Another news in Armenia. We said yesterday that the situation went bad again, but because it went bad, what happened is that people on the street put more pressure, and there was an absolute paralysis in the Armenian capital, essentially, that sent a message to the ruling party that they cannot get their way this time. And they seceded to the Armenian opposition leader, Nikol Pashinyan, saying that they will allow him to run for prime minister. They're not going to try to block his candidacy, and it is expected that he will be winning because he rallied so many people around him that it doesn't really seem like we need to wait for the elections to happen in order to know who is going to be the prime minister over the next couple of months. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll find out, but it seems like he will be the one, and he will be overseeing the forming of the new parliament, which will be, everyone assuming, is going to be pretty fair and pretty accessible for others than the elites who have been controlling it so far. Iran's supreme leader today have threatened a response to the rocket attack that destroyed the 200 Iranian surface-to-surface missiles in Syria. He's the latest of the Iranian officials speaking against the US, and this time he's speaking against Israel, of course. There is a consensus that Israel is the one who carried out these attacks. But can Iran really retaliate against Israel? Not a chance. Iran's missiles are highly unlikely to penetrate Israel's Iron Dome, which is a multi-layer missile defense system that Israel developed in cooperation with the Americans. The only thing that Iran could actually do on the ground is ask Hezbollah, the Shia group in Lebanon, to escalate tensions on the Lebanese-Israeli borders. But again, the effect of such escalation are expected to be really a big nothing, because Hezbollah got nothing to initiate an offense on. Israel, he got nothing to initiate an offense on Israel with, other than its most two traditional methods. So Hezbollah, when they wanna harass Israel or they wanna put pressure on Israel, they do two things: either launch rockets and and those have very slim chance of going through. And we're talking a statistics game here. Last time Hezbollah launched rockets on Israel, I think it was in the range of 6,000, 7,000 rockets within like 3 days. It caused casualties under 10 casualties, something like that. It destroyed like a couple of buildings. Like, it costs an immense amount of rockets to cause any minute damage to Israel. So Hezbollah is not going to use its rockets. It knows its ineffectiveness, but it uses the rockets in order to terrorize Israel, in order to keep Israel on its heels, right? So if Hezbollah uses these weapons, it will only be when Israel is attacking it, primarily. And the other method that Hezbollah likes to use is kidnapping of soldiers. Okay, so what they do is either kidnap the soldiers on the borders or dig tunnels and dig them long enough so that you actually end up in the inside of Israel, and then conduct a quick operation where you find a civilian or preferably a soldier, kidnap them through that tunnel, and done. Okay, so that's the method, that's the scenario that I would assume the retaliation of that the Iranians are talking about is going to happen. I think both Hezbollah and Hamas are trained to do that. They're trying really hard to kidnap Israeli soldiers. Remember that Israel is holding a lot of Hezbollah members and a lot of Hamas members, and so they would like to trade these members with kidnapped Israeli soldiers, and at the same time show that the fact that they can retaliate, or that Iran can retaliate in that way. Finally, China continues to be controversial in its military activities. First off, the French and the Australian presidents, when they met today, they were talking, well, I believe yesterday, they were talking about China, and they sent a message to China asking it to respect the maritime laws of the region of the South Pacific. Meanwhile, US intelligence reports were cited saying that China installed anti-ship cruise missiles and also surface-to-air missiles systems on its outposts in the South China Sea. The Pentagon refused to comment, of course, and China, now we would say, has instant deterrence capabilities in the South China Sea, which is a major trade route and is part of the major trading waterways that are being contested by 5 other countries in the region. We can see here the routes that the China Sea is incorporating, and we can say that the majority of the crude oil in the world goes through this tiny little body of water due to the immense number of countries and economies that are overlooking it. This is it for today. I did look through a variety of news. I couldn't really find anything that is substantial to comment on. Of course, we've got a number of terrorist attacks in Nigeria and in Congo, and there were a couple of issues that are ongoing in the world. I'm very aware of that, but I deliberately not talk about them because I believe there isn't really, either they don't have significant consequences, or I don't know enough to talk about them. But I also haven't seen something that I'm not willing to research on, but I've definitely seen a lot of stuff that is action, right? So it's there's events that happened, but they're very inconsequential. They're not going to make a big impact on the flow of events, really. It's it could be something that builds up over time, but until it does, I don't see this isolated event as newsworthy commenting on, because it is just inconsequential. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys, and please tune in tomorrow and subscribe. Probably something that I haven't been asking, but if you subscribe to my channel, it would be awesome. I'm gonna continue doing this every day, and you will see whether I'm able to deliver something of significance to you or not. Thank you again, and see you tomorrow.